And we're live.
Hi, this is the Libertarian Party of Texas candidate highlight. I'm Amanda Gibbs. I'm the comms director. My co host is Nathan Polsky with Political Action Department. And today we are talking with Ted Brown.
Hey, Ted, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
All right. All right. So, Ted, I know who you are. I've spoken with you a number of times. I believe
Hmm.
Amanda knows who you are. Hopefully, a lot of our voters out there know who you are. But for
Hmm.
those that do not, who are you and what are you running for?
Right. Well, let's hope that those voters find out pretty soon
Let's
here
hope.
because the election's coming up pretty soon.
Mhm.
My name's Ted Brown. I'm running for U.S. Senator from Texas. And I am running against Senator Ted Cruz, who's the Republican candidate, and Congressman Colin Allred, who's the Democratic candidate. So I've already been nominated by the Libertarian Party of Texas and will be on the ballot in the November election. Just the three candidates on the ballot, no other alternative parties or independents or anything.
Yeah, you are definitely the better Ted, if I would have to say so.
Hashtag better Ted.
Hashtag better Ted. That's
Well,
right.
I appreciate that. And that was part of the, yeah, that's part of what was, it was kind of like to do, having my name being kind of also short and also similar to his might make for some attention also because,
Hmm.
and it is good to contrast types of TED, like, Bill of Rights TED versus Loss of Rights TED, these kind of things
Ooh,
to show the contrast.
we need to get
That's a
some.
good one.
Yeah, we needed
Some
some.
Hmm.
I was
graphics.
gonna say, I know someone who likes to do graphics. If you don't have any graphics for those hashtags,
Oh, I would love to have someone do graphics. I am not very good at those kind of things.
well, and so U.S. Senate's kind of a big race, right? So unlike our congressional districts, which represent a small part of the state, or our House districts were even smaller, U.S. Senate is representing the entire state um, eh, in the federal government. So what kind of got you involved into politics? What was your libertarian story? What everyone came in at different times in the party. There was that one triggering
Oh,
event.
I've been interested in politics since I was a teenager, and that goes back into the primordial ooze of history because that goes back to the 70s. And actually, the I started getting interested in politics when I was in, well, I would say seventh grade probably. We started studying American history then, and I was just fascinated by President Andrew Jackson actually and his activities. And there was a presidential election going on then, and I was chosen to do well, actually, I volunteered to do the class speech for George McGovern, the Democratic candidate in 1972. My family hated Richard Nixon, so I started doing some research then when I was a kid. And then later on, uh, like when Watergate happened right after that, with the impeachment hearings in 74, like that was like just before I started high school. During the summer, I was watching the impeachment hearings, and I was very happy to see that Richard Nixon got his comeuppance there. Yeah, my family were Democrats and did not like Nixon, and the system worked. A dishonest, corrupt president had to leave office there, and so after that, I was just hooked on politics, sort of like my sport, you might say. So
Hmm.
I read everything I can, study political science and all that. Now, I was still a Democrat. I thought I was a Democrat, like a liberal Democrat, but I had some views that weren't quite fitting in with that because I also liked Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. I read that when I was a teenager. And
A
my
teen?
dad owned a furniture store, and I worked there when I was after school and on the weekends, and he had problems with regulations and all
Hmm.
that. So I saw that when I was a teenager. But it was finally like when I was a freshman in college. I was actually looking at a liberal magazine, progressive magazine, and they actually had an article about the Libertarian Party, and it wasn't favorable, but it was completely accurate. I said, "Wait a minute, this actually sounds really good." And so I sent back then it was like by mail I sent away and asked for information, and they sent me the party platform and a bunch of position papers, and I agreed with almost everything in there. And I said, "Wow, I'm a libertarian. I'm not a Democrat, and I'm certainly never been a Republican." So I joined up. I started a student group, and well, the rest is history. I've been active my whole adult life. I've been a member for 45 years, and I believe the cause is extremely important, and I'm not going to give up.
That's awesome.
Oh, Okay, so since you have been in the party, this is totally not about your race. This is just about the Libertarian Party.
Hmm.
I heard a little rumor when we were in DC that the LP offices used to be at Watergate, wherever that was. Is that
Yes.
true?
Yeah, they were for a long time. They were at the Watergate Hotel because it also had an office building. In fact, that was part of the problem during the Watergate break-in because there were the Democratic National Committee had their offices in the Watergate, and that's what was where the break-in occurred. So it was considered a really prestigious address, but it was really expensive, and it was because of that high rent at the Watergate is why the party officials back around 10, 15 years ago wanted to start buy an office,
Hmm.
which they did back then around circa 2012, 2014, somewhere in there.
Awesome. And then
Thank you.
so in Texas, so you're running for U.S. Senate this year. I believe you've run for a number of offices before, correct? Or is this your first time?
I have, yeah, I believe that it's very important to have. Oh no, no, many times. In fact, I probably have a record. Well, I don't know about the whole country, but I probably might have a close to a record of the number of times I've run for office as a libertarian for a variety of offices. And the reason being, I mean, it's certainly tough to run as a libertarian candidate,
Hmm.
but we also have to have libertarian candidates because I mean, if we're not there, people are not going to know that there's a libertarian party, that there's an alternative to the powers that be. Basically, most people are not interested in politics.
Hmm.
And if they are, it shows up in the fall of the election year. They say, oh my gosh, it's elections coming up. I really got to, figure out who I'm going to vote for. And if we're not there during election season, we're never going to be there for most people. They're never going
Hmm.
to know that we exist unless they see a libertarian on the ballot. And if they see libertarian candidates actually out there campaigning and running for office with whatever small amount that we can do on the limited resources that we have. So yes, I've run for Congress before. I've run for state legislature. I've run for well, back in California where I used to live years ago. I ran for insurance commissioner and got 440,000 votes for that way back. That was
That's
a
a lot of
good
votes.
race, and I just right. Well, I was the only one who had actually an insurance occupation, unlike everybody else who was running for the office. Made me look like the most qualified one, which maybe I was.
Hmm.
So, but the point is, though, libertarians have to be there presenting the alternative, and I think I'm pretty good at doing that. And that's what I want to do in the Senate race to show people they don't have to be stuck with Democrats and Republicans. You just don't have to vote that way. And people
Hmm.
seem to be stuck in that rut, saying, "Oh well, Team Red, Team Blue." We got to vote for one of these guys because that's who's going to win. Well, what's the use of voting for somebody who's going to win if you don't like what they're going to do once they get in there? So,
Right.
I always vote. I always vote Libertarian if a Libertarian's running. I found here in Texas that there's so many partisan offices that often we don't have a candidate. So, full disclosure, like in the last election, I think I voted for like 10 libertarians, like all the races they were on, but I think I voted for 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans also.
Hmm.
And my criteria on that is I will never vote for a Democrat if taxing and spending is involved in their office. That would be like a complete no-no for
Right. That
those
one's
guys.
that
So
one's
I
definitely a
really want to vote
principle.
for libertarians for every office.
Yeah, the taxation one is definitely one.
So I think that we would have more libertarian options on the ballot if we did not have the filing fees that are required for the party or
Oh, exactly.
candidates.
Exactly. And this was just implemented. I mean, in the 2018 election, there were no filing fees, and we had a pile of candidates back
Hmm.
then. Starting in 2020, when these were imposed, some people paid them and some didn't. I mean, I paid in 2020 when I ran for Congress, and it turns out, well, hell, I could have saved a lot of money because we were able to the Republicans weren't able to get us off the
Hmm.
ballot for not paying the fee. In fact, I can't believe how idiotic they were. I mean, I'm glad they were in both 2020 and 2022. They must have hired the chairman's strange nephew as their attorney or
Hmm.
something because they waited until like it was far too late to challenge us being on our candidates who hadn't paid the filing fee. So, but as it turns out, it really does make people hesitant to run if they don't know whether they're going to get on the ballot or not if they don't pay the fee. So
Hmm.
the people who paid the fee, including myself, wanted to be sure of being on the ballot, but plenty of other people still ended up being on the ballot, which was great because more people then had the option of being a libertarian candidate. So this year it's the same thing. I mean, we have a number of candidates who have paid and a number of candidates who haven't. So the law has changed as to just how they can deal with us in that fashion. And we'll see exactly what happens in the next. They're going to have to do something in the next couple of months
Hmm.
to one way or the other to determine once and for all if those candidates will be on for November.
Yeah, and for anybody who doesn't know that's watching, the Libertarian Party candidate filing fees go to the state coffers, where and
Mm-hmm.
we also then have to pay for all of our own conventions and everything. And then for the Republicans, Democrats, their filing fees pay for their primaries. So, um, in so facto, we're paying for their primaries by filing, basically.
I mean,
Pretty
pretty
much.
much.
Yeah, pretty much we're paying for that. And there was a proposal to make it quote unquote fair to us by giving the money to the parties so we could like run our affairs with it. And then theoretically we could just give it back to our candidates.
Hmm.
But they said, nah, let's just take the libertarians' money. You know, we don't like those guys anyway. Well,
Well, and the
the Republicans
Greens.
don't like us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the third parties. Yep, all
Yes.
third parties. Yep. All right, so let's say Ted Brown beats out Ted Cruz because we know Alan Allright's not going to win.
Mm.
And
Colin.
Colin Allright, sorry.
All red, yeah.
um, so, what are your top three priorities once you're in the Senate?
Well, I mean, as a libertarian, my goal is always to promote liberty
Mm-hmm.
and to reduce the size of government. So, whatever comes up that would do those things, I would be in favor of. And I would oppose vigorously anything that would expand the size of government and damage our liberties. So, probably I'd be awfully busy on the second half of that because
Mm-hmm.
most of the bills that are proposed would damage our liberties and make things worse for this country. Now, obviously, if I'm a member of the Senate, I can introduce bills also. But the key is, in order to get anything heard, you have to have alliances with other senators and work across the aisle. Well, they don't do much of that now. Well, actually, they do. They do have bipartisan now, but only if they particularly want to damage our personal freedoms and economic freedoms. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
as George Carlin, the comedian, said, bipartisan means a particularly large deception is being carried out. And that's about what's happening. And frankly, the only way the Democrats and Republicans agree is if it's to vote for a lot of money to bomb brown people in the Middle East or something. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's about the only way they'll agree on an expenditure or something. But my goal would be I would be happy to work with Democrats on civil liberties issues. I would be happy to work with Republicans on regulatory or anti-regulatory and tax cuts and these kind of things if they want to, and whatever it is that's going to promote freedom. And I would be very happy to vote against any bill that doesn't, and that's going to be probably voting against just about every bill before the Senate. And one thing I'm certainly against are these omnibus bills that they
Mm-hmm.
have, where they have all year to craft a bill on whatever subject it is, and then they get down to the last 2 days. Oh, we're coming up on the deadline. We have 2 days. This is a must-pass bill. Let's just throw in all these amendments nobody can read, and you must vote for this bill, or everyone's going to die. You know, that's pretty much what they do to the. They don't allow amendments. They don't allow debate, and it's been done that way in the House and Senate for years and years. Where the leadership writes the bills like that in the back room. They don't let people read them, and the system's supposed to work where committees of the Senate are supposed to have hearings. They're supposed to mark up legislation in the committees, and then it gets to the floor. After a lot of testimony and discussion ahead of time, rather than just surprising everybody at the last minute. So
Mm-hmm.
certainly any bill that comes up, if they say it's a must-pass bill, it's a must vote no for me because that's an opinion. That's not reality. It's like the supporter's opinion is must pass. And then the media repeats that. They say the must pass bill is coming before the Senate this Friday. And if it's not voted on before the Senate goes on a 2-week recess, the government will shut down. And
Good.
they make it sound like the end is nigh if the government shuts down. Most people wouldn't even notice, probably.
Mm-hmm. And you've
Yeah.
also
I
got
mean,
those.
maybe if we didn't get our mail.
Eh, It's just the post office. So you've got FedEx and UPS, and you got all the other postal services, and you've also got those bills that I don't know
Yeah,
if
you
they
do
do.
have alternatives now on that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's if it happens in the House, or I'm sorry, in the Senate much, but I know in the House there's you have to pass the bill before you can actually read the bill. Um,
Well,
which
can you believe that? That's just absolutely crazy. That means that whoever said that, in that case, Nancy Pelosi, that means she didn't read the bill, didn't even know what was in
Oh
the
no,
damn
she
bill.
absolutely
That
drafted the bill. Can
I don't
guarantee
know.
that
Maybe
one.
she didn't. Her staff did. Her staff told her what was in it. They just said, Nancy, you're going to make another 100 million in the stock market if you pass this bill. And so just go ahead and vote for it.
Well, that's when all those individuals get in trouble for the stock market by just following what buys and sells Nancy Pelosi does, because it's claimed insider trading when it's really just following what she does.
There's an app for that, I understand. Like if you
Hmm.
just follow what the senators or the House members are investing in. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I think
I
there's like a
follow
whole
a Twitter page
there's a
about
Twitter
that.
page for that too that
Yeah.
follows Nancy Pelosi's stock exchanges and whatnot.
Yeah.
All right, so then moving on. Uh, for some of the smaller races, I don't want to say smaller races, but like congressional districts, house districts, whatnot. Again, you have a smaller footprint, and they are usually gerrymandered out the wazoo to have a
Yes.
specific demographic. So when dealing with specific legislation, at least in Texas or in
Hmm.
Congress, it's much easier to get an idea of what your constituents are going to want. As a U.S. senator, though, you've got the entire state to keep in mind.
Hmm.
So, how do you, I mean, as a libertarian, as a senator, a U.S. Senate candidate, um, how do you plan to get, the best feel, or the best eye on the ball to or from all the residents and voters in Texas to make sure that you're doing a good job and you're putting Texans' best foot or best interest forward?
Well, I certainly would be happy to speak to Texans anywhere, anytime. And that's
Mm-hmm.
unlike Ted Cruz, who actually doesn't like being harassed in the airport. So he wanted to get a bill passed saying that senators and other dignitaries could have special treatment at the airport, so they could just be like escorted through, so they wouldn't have to like see the rabble when they're they're going through the airport. So
He thinks
people
he's
wouldn't be yelling at
royalty.
it. I know, like royalty. They're the opposite of royalty. They're
Hmm.
just plain old schlubs that think they're important.
They need to
But
stand in the TSA line with the rest of us.
they sure should. That's the thing. They don't. That's why there's so many laws, because these guys don't ever have to come home and live under the laws that they pass
Hmm.
in Washington. So my view is I'm very happy to talk to any Texan anytime. Not I'm not going to have a lot of major contributors like the big shots.
Hmm.
The big corporations and the big lobbyists and all that. That's not the only people that the current senators talk to. Since I won't have anybody like that, I'll be glad to talk to anybody. They can, come by the Senate office. We can have town halls all over Texas,
I think I lost you
and
again.
I want to hear
Uh,
what they have to say.
oh,
Mm.
you're good.
I've got them.
Okay, just my side then.
Okay, I want to hear what they have to say, and but one thing for certain is, though, this is a democratic republic. They would be electing me to use my best judgment as
Hmm.
to what would be best, and I am not beholden to any special interest groups or corrupt party leaders or anything like the other guys are, and I am just there to uphold the Constitution and the rights and liberties of the people of this country and of Texas. That's why I'm there. And if I'm just serve one term, which is probably the maximum anyway, after what would happen during that 6 years, I'd be very happy just to do whatever I can, however small it is, to move the discourse towards liberty and away from bigger government. Whatever I can do, that's what I want to do.
Awesome.
Okay, random question. How do you feel about term limits?
Uh, I believe that I would favor a two-term limit for U.S. Senate. Now, Ted Cruz, this guy's the biggest hypocrite you could possibly imagine. So, when he was first elected in 2012, he was a Tea Party senator. In fact, he wasn't all that bad when he was first elected.
Hmm.
But he pledged to serve the 2 terms only, 2 terms the maximum. So last year, when he's coming up on the end of his second term, he proposes a constitutional amendment to limit senators to 2 terms. The same day, he files for a third term. I mean, I don't. I just can't. The chutzpah and the hypocrisy of this guy just knows no bounds. I just can't believe Ted Cruz. So, um,
Hashtag make it make sense.
Had
it
mental
makes no
gymnastics
sense.
on that one.
It makes no sense. He basically he says, "Stop me from serving again." All he has to do
Okay.
is not run. There would probably be like 100 prominent Republicans would run for that seat. They don't need Ted Cruz.
Uh,
Yeah, but if Ted Cruz isn't there, who else is going to push the "you can only serve 2 term limits" bill?
The next guy. Though
the
most of them
next
don't
one
even
that was
bother. Senator Cornyn's never said that. He says, "I'll just serve as long as I want."
that guy too, man. Oh, he's something else.
Well, Cornyn now wants to be the Senate Republican leader, so we'll see how he does with that.
Hmm.
I doubt if he's going to get that position, but you never know.
No, he pisses enough people off. He pisses enough Republicans off that he won't get it.
Probably not.
All right. So you mentioned, being in the Senate, you have there's a lot less senators than there are House representatives, for starters.
Hmm.
Um, so when you are crafting bills, when you're trying to work together, you're not going to be able to have as big of a pool to, go and cherry pick specific individuals from to say, hey, oh, we want to work together on this issue, we want to work together on that issue.
Hmm.
What sort of strategy would you foresee having going into the Senate to get some of those bipartisan, tripartisan, deals and solutions going?
Well, that's the thing. I'd have to, meet my colleagues. If they'll even talk to me, they might think, "Oh my gosh, this guy's like here to upset the apple cart, and we don't want to have
Hmm.
anything to do with this guy." But I think, well, I mean, for example, there are well now 4. They're really Democrats, but there are 4 independent senators
Hmm.
caucus with the Democrats, so they're a little bit independent minded to do that sort of thing. 2 of them will be gone though. That'll be Sinema and Manchin will be gone, but Bernie will still be there probably. And one thing is sometimes you can work with people like him.
Hmm.
Back in years ago, when Ron Paul was sponsoring the audit the Fed bill in the House, Bernie was there to sponsor the Senate version. So you never know. Bernie
What?
Sanders audit the Fed back in years ago, 15 years ago, or whatever that was, back when Ron was in Congress. And Ron was also joined by Democrats like Dennis Kucinich from Ohio.
Hmm.
As a Because sometimes on that side of the spectrum, they hate the Fed for different reasons. So the point is, though, you can work with people. It's just the same reason as you see in some of these House votes where some of the most extreme right-wing Republicans and some of the most extreme left-wing Democrats are the only ones opposing certain bills because they're standing on their principles. They have different
Hmm.
reasons, but they have the principles that these what the alleged consensus, the what the powers that be want are not right. Those things are not right for America. And so I think you ought to listen to. You might have to even listen to AOC sometimes on some of those because she might actually be right on some issues.
Hmm.
I know I've listened to her sometimes, and I'm like, wait, I just agreed with her. Like, let me listen again to make sure that like I
Oh
heard
yeah.
her correctly.
Every now and then you'll get someone who you disagree with
Hmm.
90% of the things on will have a aha moment. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, we can get together on that one. It makes me feel dirty saying that, but okay, we can get together on
Sure, and
that.
that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I think, but more likely, it's the odds are there would just be I would be trying to throw the kinks in their plans, because
Mm-hmm.
senators do have a lot of individual power.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it can be used idiotically, like Senator Tuberville, like holding all military promotions or something. But the fact is, why was he able to even do that? how could he, as one senator, even hold back a bunch of military promotions? I don't even see why the Senate has to approve military promotions. But the
Hmm.
point is, one senator can like stop people from being confirmed, maybe could stop some bills from even being considered. And then, of course, there's the filibuster. So that's an opportunity. May work with Rand Paul on some of those, on filibustering some areas like where people's privacy rights are being violated. There's a lot of different areas where there are a few senators that really want to stand up on that. So just aligning with the with the right people. But otherwise, maybe my staff needs to be consist of like investigative reporters or something to find out all the bad things government's
Hmm.
doing, and I'll just go on the Senate floor and tell everybody about it.
I can totally go be a nosy staffer if you'd like.
Oh, that would be fun. That would be fun. Well, when I ran for a city council seat back in the 90s, the council, of course, was like a part-time,
Hmm.
volunteer kind of position, and each council member had like a staff member, a paid staff member. And people were saying, "Well, who are you going to appoint as your staff member?" You're thinking it's somebody like city functionary or something. I said, "I'm going to hire," and I named this investigative reporter from the local alternative newspaper, saying this guy really digs down and finds out what's going on in city government. I want him to do that right from an office at City Hall to find out what all you guys are up to. And so that's the sort of thing I could do, and even much more in the Senate, because there's so many more agencies and departments, and if they get some sort of inquiry from like a senator's staffer, they might have to actually provide the information. So we'll see about that.
Being transparent, what?
An investigative reporter's dreams. Here's all the access that you want to go and do your investigative reporting.
Exactly. Yeah, the toughest guy, somebody who's as probing as like Glenn Greenwald, or just someone who's really going to try to get down to the heart of the matter.
Hmm.
Love it. I'm here for it.
Hmm.
Well, man, I'm gonna
The
stop
bitter
hogging on the
Ted.
questions, so I'll let you.
No, I mean, like Ted's been answered like all of our like list of questions in all of the questions.
All right. Well, so
So
so if you're not going to shoot one off, I got my next one here. All right. So most libertarians that run for office are not politicians.
Hmm.
They don't do it professionally. It's not a career politician. A career goal for them. Um, what what is your experience running for office before, and what certain skills would you bring to the office of a U.S. senator? I know Ted Cruz has been in office for 2 terms now, right? So he's running for his
Hmm.
third term. So he's got that experience, but that doesn't mean it's good experience. So,
No, no, no.
so
Well,
what? It's,
there's always the learning experience to it. I mean, it would be like, the first few days is like trying to find out where the men's room is, or something like that. And how to get on the Senate floor, or make sure that they recognize me so I don't get arrested trying to go onto the Senate floor or whatever. But there is a learning curve on that. I would be very happy to talk to Rand Paul, probably, even though obviously he's not a libertarian, but he's like probably the best senator. Though there's a really low bar, a really really low bar on that. But I would probably talk to him. And
Mhm.
it'd be great if Justin Amash was elected to the Senate this year. He's running, he's running as a Republican. I can see why he is. The Libertarian Party in Michigan's kind of screwed up. But he actually has a chance, and he's probably
Mhm.
the only Republican that could win that seat. So if you could imagine, if he was elected, I would certainly attach
Mhm.
myself to him with his experience in Washington to try to help get things done. And of course, maybe things would get done if there were two or three of us who had similar views on these major issues.
Yeah, you plus Justin Amash plus Rand Paul. There's a trio that can get
Yeah,
shit done.
that would be great. And if I'm elected, maybe some other libertarians will be elected too. I mean, we have Senate candidates
Hmm.
in other states as well. I mean, this one here in Texas. I mean, given how large Texas is, I mean, my race is like the second biggest race in the country after president, with a libertarian
Hmm.
candidate. But there's some other big ones too. Florida, we have libertarian Fina Bonawan is running for
I
Senate
love
down
her.
there, if that's how you pronounce it. And I know in Indiana and some other states we have candidates. So we should have candidates in every state for U.S. Senate
Hmm.
and for governor when those are up, because those are the high-profile offices. It might be harder to win, but those are the ones where people actually kind of pay attention to the race. If We certainly should have candidates for like the local emergency service district board or whatever it is, because that
Mm-hmm.
actually you can do actually probably get something done in a position like that. But that's not the kind of office that like gets the voter excited.
Mm-hmm.
People all get all bent out of shape about who's their senator, or of course who's their governor, or one of some of those higher positions. Even though they have less influence over those kind of officials and
Mm-hmm.
what they accomplish. They just are so high profile. It's hard to ignore them. Pretty much is what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more excited lately the more I learn about how Texas operates, about lieutenant governor.
Oh,
Like like that is a race that I would love a libertarian to win just because
hmm
the fuck I'm sorry. The lieutenant governor um controls the calendar and what bills are actually like presented, and
hmm
ah, to have somebody who actually cares about liberty in that position would be just
I think
a
that.
dream.
That's true. That's true. Well, there's really no other lieutenant governor in the country, I think, that has that much power.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, they're just a figurehead of some kind. And in fact, it's
Not here.
ridiculous that the Texas lieutenant governor does have that much power. That's supposed to be an executive branch official. They should not be running the state senate. And really, the senators should be electing their own president, just like the House elects their speaker. It should be from amongst the senators. They should decide who it is, and they can remove them the same way as they're having all this controversy about the state house speakers. It should be the same in the state senate. Dan Patrick has way too much power. There shouldn't be anybody like that saying, well, no, we won't have any marijuana reform because I say so. I won't even let my fellow senators, all mostly Republicans like me, vote even. I don't even trust them to vote because
Mm-hmm.
I will not let that happen. Well, that's
Yep.
not how it's supposed to work. And that's a guy that should be thrown out, and somebody should come in on the platform of, I'm going to abolish the office of lieutenant governor. Don't need it, don't want it.
Well, that's the current power that the lieutenant governor in Texas holds. That's just a holdover from when Texas was its own republic.
I don't know. I don't know
I
about
think
that, but
so.
the Constitution, the current Constitution, I think was written in like 1876 or 1879, somewhere in there, and they wanted to disperse the power. The governor
Okay.
has less power than in some other states, and even though he pretends he has more, and there's a lot of these officials for all these departments that maybe they have split power up, which is actually in some ways a good idea, but it just doesn't manifest itself very well these days.
Mm-hmm. All right. So tell me about your campaign then. So Texas is big.
Yes.
It's a lot of square miles to cover. Are you doing any ground game? Is it all online? I think I saw you had a couple of speaking things lined up on your Facebook. So
There's some things coming up. It's really, the problem is when you're dealing with an office like this, which is the whole state, is so there's not that much opportunity to meet very many voters.
hmm
So in order, there has to be like more mass media in
hmm
order to do that. That's why I started out trying to be on podcasts. I don't know how much exposure that'll get, but you can talk to a lot of people, even hundreds at the same time, rather than just one at a time. And I'd love to be on radio talk shows. I need some volunteers to help me out with scheduling and calling up like producers of talk shows to get me on there. And if I raise money, which I try to do, but it's tough because obviously libertarians don't have anything to offer these special interest groups.
hmm
And I'm willing to spend a little bit of my own money. I did when I ran for Congress 4 years ago. We put out 17,000 door hangers then. Uh,
a
but
lot.
again, that wouldn't go very far in the whole state. It would in one congressional district, but
Right.
doesn't in the whole state. So I really need to get on media to talk to people, and there's not much chance I'm going to get to debate Cruz and Allred, but hopefully we can rig something up where I'm answering the same questions simultaneously and putting that out separately and let the voters know what I think uh, versus the idiotic answers they're likely to give for debate
Mm.
questions.
They're
Are-
canned answers.
Uh,
They are, and especially Allred's probably the one who really is going to give canned
mhm.
answers because he's like a creature of the House leadership, and it's almost like when Chase Oliver was running for Senate in Georgia 2 years ago, and I don't know if you saw that famous debate where he was debating Senator Warnock, and he
Yes.
said, Senator Warnock, do you actually read the bills that you're voting on, or do you just listen to Senator Schumer? And Warnock was confused, and he had no idea that anybody was saying this to him, and he couldn't believe it. But that's what I think about Allred. I think he just whatever the leadership says, and that's a reasonable assumption because most of the Democratic members of Congress do whatever the leaders say.
Hmm.
They're much more lockstep than the Republicans are, it seems. So
Well, I know that that position was highly contentious within the Texas Democrats, like their primary. With I can't remember the guy who was running against him, but it was because I follow a lot of Texas
mm,
Democrats, and it was highly contentious, and I was just like, "Woo, this feels like a libertarian something."
maybe. Well, State Senator Roland Gutierrez is who you're talking about, and he was
Yes.
a bit more of a bit more liberal candidate even than Allred. And that's one thing. Allred is going off the reservation a bit from the Democrats on the immigration issue, for example. He says, "Well, I'm in Texas, so I better not be as seem to be as pro-immigrant as who
Hmm.
knows whether he is or not." But he voted against a bill that the Hispanic community didn't care or would have liked, but thought that he was one of their allies. I forget the exact details of it. But this is one area, like, well, there's areas on both sides, like on, to point out how Cruz is not the fiscal conservative that people think, and also to show that Allred is not the civil libertarian that people might think.
Hmm.
Um, that libertarians are the ones that are going to stand up for people's rights on both sides, the economic freedom and the personal freedom, while the other guys are just going to throw these constituencies under the bus if it serves their corporate masters and the special interest groups and all. So, they can only they can trust libertarians. They can only trust on like marijuana policy. We're the only ones they can trust on immigration. Well, most of us are the only ones that they can trust. There's a few that maybe I wouldn't trust in the LP about that issue these days, but. And on gay rights issues, for example, we were the first, to favor the right to gay marriage and all way back, and but some of these groups say,
Anti-war.
oh, well, the Democrats are the only ones that are going to stand up for our rights. Well, no, the Democrats will throw you under the bus as soon as they get a chance.
Hmm. As soon as it benefits them and only them, they will toss you right on out.
Yep, exactly.
Well, so as far as getting out there, then, so you've got a website,
Hmm.
you've got a Twix profile. We're gonna go to Twitter and X here. You got a
Twitter.
Hmm.
Facebook. Do you have any
Yes.
other social media out there? Do you have a?
That's all. That's all. That's all for now. I would be on TikTok because
I
I'm
was
the
about
only
to ask.
candidate in the race. I'm the only candidate on the race that does not want to ban TikTok. Both Cruz and Allred want to ban it. And frankly, in my opinion, it's like half the people in the country use it. So obviously, it's the law of supply and demand. People actually want TikTok,
Hmm.
and not only is it for just regular free speech and fun or whatever people are using it for, there are actually businesses on there
Hmm.
that really need it to sell their products and all. So these bills are, as far as I'm concerned, totally unconstitutional. I certainly hope the TikTok provide or uh, content providers prevail in their lawsuit, along with the company itself. And it's going to come up in court, I think, by August or September. I think they're going to fast track that because it is there is the deadline because of the proposed ban. And
Hmm.
it's just terrible. It's they're saying, well, China is propagandizing to Americans through this site. And in reality, the secondary part of this, only the American government's allowed to do that to our
Yeah,
Right.
citizens. How dare this
they
other
just
government?
hate
Yeah,
competition.
that's right. The government hates competition, and then there is the issue of Israel and Palestine too, because there's an awful lot of people on TikTok, I understand, that are not taking the Israeli side on this conflict, and the powers that be in Washington are very much in favor of Israel. So I think, even Senator Mitt Romney, who is generally I consider an honest person. Versus, I don't agree with him on very much, but I believe he was being honest when he said that was why they wanted to get rid of TikTok. He's the one that maybe pulled the veil off of that one. He's somebody I don't think would just flat out lie about something like that.
I do know that a certain speech is a little bit throttled on TikTok because I had a post yesterday or the day before,
Mm,
maybe it was yesterday, and I brought up 2A and our constitutional right to bear arms,
mm,
and Normally my videos, just my personal videos, not my LP Texas videos, get around 5 to 700 views, and this one
Hmm.
is sitting there at like 182 all day.
So they limit
So
what your they maybe limits a distribution when they hear certain keywords or
I
something like that.
think so, or like enough people kind of report it to where it like throws it out of the algorithm.
Mm.
But that could be users versus, like the end of it.
Need to come up with different phrases to use on there to get past those filters.
Yeah. Well, I was a little aggravated and wanted to spit it out real quick.
So instead,
Well, frankly, Twitter and Facebook have a lot of these algorithms and these
mm-hmm.
filters also that are very annoying. Because I mean, say for example, if on my I have a certain number of followers on my Facebook page, and if I post something, it goes to what 30 or 40 of them, and not to hundreds and hundreds like it should. I mean, and there's no way to get it to all your all your followers who actually have chosen to follow that particular site. Now, if they wanted to go and look for it, they all have access to me, but they don't automatically receive it. Might not think about it and that's part of the problem. And the same for the party, like the county Facebook group. It just doesn't get distribution to the number of number of people who have joined it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's they're trying to just really censor. I think they're trying to censor political speech on these sites. They want people to look at their cuddly kitty videos or whatever it is.
That's what I need to do. I need to get a cute little kitten and then talk about our constitutional rights.
I would
Yeah,
love to see the metrics on that.
yeah. It's like have the kitten like do a ventriloquism thing where the little kitten is talking about
New goal, or a puppy or a kitten of some
them.
sort.
That's right. How dare
Or a
you not allow
porcupine.
this puppy to be seen by all of America's children?
All right.
I'm gonna go buy a pet now.
All right. So I have gone through all the questions that I had. Amanda, did you have any more that you wanted to bring up?
Did you ask what the website was
I
and
did
all
not.
of that? I
I
got
was about.
distracted
I
by
was about
kidding.
to.
Okay.
Hmm. Okay, well, the website is tedbrown.org,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of issues in there. There's my a lot of quotes, some of my favorite quotes in there. Some of the podcasts I've been on are on there, and my intro statement on the homepage. I've put that up for years. It's about how you don't have to vote for Democrats and Republicans, and how libertarians believe that you have the right to lead your life the way you want, as long as you're not harming anyone else, and as long as you take responsibility for your actions, and how all the other guys have a plan to run your life, but we're the ones that want to leave you alone. And I think it's very fundamental for people to know that there is that alternative. They don't have to just keep voting for people who are going to run their lives and not run them in the way they want. In
Hmm.
fact, that's the kind of thing I tell young people, like I've spoken in the past to students, and I say, a person who's not interested in politics is like a drowning man who's not interested in water. It's all around you, and if you don't get involved in politics, people who you don't like are going to make decisions for you, and you're not going to like those decisions.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, it's probably still going to happen even if you did get involved in politics, but at least there's a chance for you to give some input. And that's very important. So to know that you can give input and maybe be listened to on that. But that's why young people, I hope, will get involved in the voting this fall. That's why Chase Oliver, I think, is a great presidential candidate because he's so young, and the other parties are nominating you know, these old, worn out, demented old coots that have seen better days. It's just the same as when, like, about the TikTok ban, when they're
Hmm.
talking about, the relatives of the senators need to contact them about, like the kids and their family. Are saying, yeah, their great, 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 great grandchildren contacted them about
Hmm.
keeping TikTok, and they still didn't listen to them. But the point is, these guys are old. I mean, look, I'm 63. I'm not young myself, but some guy who's like 81 and 78, and even Kennedy and Jill Stein, all of them, they're all in their 70s, and how do they relate to young voters? I mean, Chase is 38. I think we need to get young people interested in the political process, and somebody closer to their age instead of to their granddad's age is the way to do that. So we need to see have young candidates get out there and try to motivate the younger voters. And so I certainly want to help out with that, even though maybe, of course, they see me and they say, "Oh, that Brown's another old guy," but but I want to do at least what I can to
But there's
you know to,
value
yeah,
in learning from older people, especially
yeah,
within the party, because
sure,
like I still see myself as a newer member of the party, and I'm 40
hmm,
and 41 technically. Um but like I can still learn stuff from you, and I pass like that knowledge on to my kids. Like I want my kids to be
hmm,
activists and fight for liberty, like their liberty, like not even like I try not to push my beliefs on them, let them
hmm,
figure it out.
sure.
So like, but there is value in your
Hmm.
wisdom. So
Oh, there is that. I mean, and that's what they're going to say. Yeah, Joe Biden has been around so long that he can give so much wisdom to the, the people
Hmm.
of
is
America.
he really?
I
I don't
don't
know.
think he's
He's
still there.
nah, maybe not, maybe not. But then again, in a position like that, there's just so many people backing him up that it's going to be harder for people to notice. You know,
Hmm.
now if something like that happened to, it's pretty obvious. Like I say, if it's like a congressman or something, it suddenly is fading. They pretty much have to end up having to resign pretty soon after they're shown to be kind of like out there because they just don't have enough people to back them up to like hide that from the public. Like at a hearing, I saw this like a couple years ago. There was a congressman who just was babbling on at a hearing or something, and they pretty much said, "Does Congressman, bye." they, just, they just can't have that, but
You're
they
done.
could probably they could
We
hide
just need
Biden
little
or
buzzers.
Trump. Yeah.
Uh,
All right, so you've got your website, tedbrown.org. You've got your Twitter, you've got your Facebook. Can you give those links out?
Oh, sure. Well, the Twitter is at Ted Brown Liberty,
Hmm.
and then for Facebook, just go to it's spelled right out, Ted Brown Libertarian for U.S. Senator from Texas.
Okay. All right, and then how can people get a hold of you outside of your website or Twitter or Facebook, or is the
They
website just?
should email me probably at tedbrown1776 at hotmail.com.
All right,
And I
all
know
right,
that's an old-fashioned email address, but I've had it for like 25 years, and everybody knows it, so let's keep using it.
all right. And are you taking donations? Are you looking for
Yes.
people to go out and block walk for you, or to help you out in some of the bigger towns and smaller towns in Texas?
Oh, well, yes, I do want to have yard signs. In fact, I've been asked about those, so I'm going to get those designed. But again, people need to contribute for that.
Mm-hmm.
And on my website, there's the donate. There's a bunch of different topics on the website. You can and donate is one of them. So please do. Please donate to the Brown campaign, and the money will be spent at this point probably mostly on signs and other literature.
Great.
okay, and I just want to promo that Ted will be out at Houston Pride on June 29th, and I will be there as a volunteer for LP Texas and LP Harris and getting lots of pictures
Mhm.
and videos. So that's where he will be on June 29th.
Yes, I look forward to that. I'll be at the booth. Apparently, they're saying it from like noon to 2 on the Saturday. I'll be there. Chase Oliver will be there,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully some other candidates will be there as well. And then in the evening is the parade, and we're gonna march or ride or whatever is planned on that in the Pride parade. But I haven't done that since the '80s, so I look forward to being in the Pride parade.
Awesome. All
Love
right.
it.
Well, Ted, do you have anything else you wanted to bring up before we call it?
No, I just appreciate you having me on. I hope people will help out on this campaign because it is a very important campaign
Mm-hmm.
to let Texans know there is an alternative, and uh, and also uh, down on the ticket further, like people running for Congress, state Senate, state House, and all the other offices in Texas as well. So let's get out the vote for everybody.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you again, Ted, for joining us today. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Amanda, for co hosting as well. Stay tuned for more candidate interviews, candidate highlights for 2024 LP Texas. Until then, y'all take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.